The belief that Africa was cursed is a controversial topic that stems from a misinterpretation of a biblical episode. This story, rooted in the curse of Ham, one of Noah's sons, was often used to justify discriminatory and racist attitudes, particularly during the colonial era. Let's uncover the truth behind this legend and understand what really happened, according to the Bible. Welcome to Sacred Stories. Today, we're going to unravel one of the most controversial and painful myths ever created. Was Africa really cursed in the Bible? Let's understand the origin of this story and reveal the truth behind one of the biggest religious misunderstandings of all time. In Genesis 9, after the flood, Noah and his sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, begin a new stage of life. Noah plants a vineyard, makes wine, and at one point, he gets drunk and falls asleep naked in his tent. Ham, upon seeing his father in this vulnerable state, chooses to tell his brothers, Shem and Japheth, what he saw. Instead of respecting his father and acting with discretion, he exposes Noah to his brothers. Shem and Japheth, on the other hand, cover Noah without looking at him, showing respect and care. When Noah wakes up and learns what Ham has done, he pronounces a curse, but note, the curse is not directed at Ham but at his son Canaan. Noah declares that Canaan would be a servant of servants to his brothers, indicating that the consequence of Ham's disrespect would fall upon his descendants. Have you heard this story before? Let us know in the comments what you thought about this curse before watching. Ham had 4 sons, Cush, Mizraim, Phut, and Canaan. It's important to note that only Canaan was cursed. Historically, Canaan's descendants were the people who inhabited the region of what is now the Middle East, like the Canaanites. These people are not associated with Africans in general. Other sons of Ham, like Mizraim, were ancestors of the Egyptians, while Cush is traditionally linked to the region of Ethiopia. During the colonial era, many religious figures and scholars used the story of Canaan as a justification for enslaving Africans. They interpreted that the curse of Ham applied to all African descendants, distorting scripture to serve purposes of oppression and domination. Did you ever imagine that this mistaken interpretation would influence history so much? The Bible mentions African figures with respect and admiration. For instance, Moses marries a Cushite, Ethiopian, woman, showing a close bond between the Hebrew people and Africans. Additionally, the Queen of Sheba, originating from a region in Africa, visits King Solomon in search of wisdom. Far from being cursed, Egypt, one of the greatest empires of the ancient world, was a place of prosperity where many biblical events occurred, such as Abraham's journey to escape famine and Joseph's rise to a high position in Egyptian government. From ancient Nubia to the Mali Empire, Africa has a long history of wealth, culture, and spirituality. The Bible even mentions the black man neutrally or positively, reinforcing that there is no biblical basis for considering Africa a cursed land. The myth of an African curse has no real biblical basis. It was a construction used to justify atrocities. By examining the scriptures carefully, we see that the Bible does not endorse discrimination or violence against any people. The true message of the Bible is one of equality and dignity for all nations. In Acts 17 verse 26, Paul says that God made all nations from one blood to live on all the earth. This means that all people, from all ethnicities and continents, are equally valuable in God's eyes. The Bible contains many instances where Africa plays an important part in prophecies and narratives. For example, Psalm 68 verse 31 refers to Ethiopia stretching out its hands to God, suggesting a moment when Africa would embrace faith. This shows that Africa's role is not one of a cursed land, but of a continent participating in divine promises and connections with God. The Bible contains many instances where Africa plays an important part in prophecies and narratives. For example, Psalm 68 verse 31 refers to Ethiopia stretching out its hands to God, suggesting a moment when Africa would embrace faith. This shows that Africa's role is not one of a cursed land, but of a continent participating in divine promises and connections with God. Africa in the lineage of Jesus. It's significant to note that people from Africa had influence even in the lineage and story of Jesus. For instance, Simon of Cyrene, an African, helped carry the cross of Christ on his journey to Golgotha, showing Africa's involvement even at pivotal moments in the New Testament. The era of European colonial expansion contributed heavily to the spread of the Curse of Ham myth, distorting biblical history to align with socio-political motives. Many believed it was justifiable to exploit Africans based on this misinterpretation, although the Bible does not support this. Over time, biblical scholars and historians have worked to correct this myth, revealing that the so-called curse was misused. Many leaders have emphasized the need to return to accurate interpretations, which honor all people equally and reflect the truth of God's intentions. How do you think history would have been different if this misinterpretation had not been used? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for joining us on this journey to uncover the truth. Let's continue to embrace Africa and all nations with respect, appreciation, and understanding. Stay tuned for more inspiring stories on Sacred Stories.